Hello everyone, this is Drive Type Audio. For this video, we're going to talk about the Kbear Larks. So here it looks. So here. So I just want to say that this Kbear Larks is not mine. I borrowed it from my audiophile friend. And thanks for him for trusting me to lend his unit with me for review purposes. So let's start the review of this pair. So let's start with the build quality, design, and comfort. The pair itself is made out of plastic resin with a metal faceplate. It's quite pretty well built. I can feel it based in my hands. I can feel it's very quite built. And the connector of the pair is also sturdy. It's quite well built. Well, let me focus it here. And there we go. I managed to see here. It's also quite sturdy. So for the comfort, it's very comfortable in my ears. It goes deep, giving me better sound isolation. And the design of this pair reminds me of my favorite anime, which is Guilty Crown. I don't know if you all know that anime. Basically, the design looks like a DNA structure, and it looks also the transformation seen in Guilty Crown, where the main character gets his weapons from other people. So for the sound signature, the pair itself is a V-shaped type of tuning and has a hint of being bright. This pair has a controlled sub-bass and mid-bass with being punchy and prominent in the track. And I also just want to mention that I tested this pair in my Oppo A95, which is my main driver phone, and the sound signature of this is pretty quite plain sounding and not that fun, and it's super boring. Anyways, let's talk about the lows or bass. Lows in this pair are very punchy and have an attack that bass heads would like. Sub-bass extension is very deep and has an impactful punch, which is very prominent in the tracks. Mid-bass is very clean, it doesn't bleed in other frequencies. Also, mid-bass is very deep and has an attack with being controlled. Instruments like bass guitar and drums, it's very impactful and has an attack. Mids. Mids in this pair are too recessed. Even its recessed, I find the vocals to have extension and presence in the track. Male vocals have more note weight while female vocals have their openness and clarity, but lacks body for my liking. Both genders deliver clean presentation with definition. In terms of the presentation of the mids, it's more like vocals in the back and instruments in front, highs or treble. Highs in this pair are decent, and treble needs more refinement since it has an unbalanced quality and leads to being sibilant. Cymbals have their presence in the track, and it's only decent. Air and sparkle have a decent extension. Violin has decent extension. It has clarity and sparkle. But the sounding of the violin feels boosted and making it artificial, not realistic. Technicalities. This pair is not a technical pair, but it still delivers technical aspects. The soundstage in this pair feels like you're in a small room, and honestly, it's pretty small for my liking. Separation in this pair is decent. It still separates instruments and vocals just fine. Layering is decent. It still has the right placements for the instruments. In terms of details, it's more in macro details rather than micro details. Micro details shine a bit and have their presence but only minimal. So let's talk about the pros and cons of this pair. So the pros. Adaptive to a wide variety of tracks, good looking shell design, great build quality, decent technicalities, female vocals have openness, male vocals have more note weight, decent resolution. Cons. Tourses, mids, treble needs refinement, highs have peaks, and sibilance. So my rating, my personal rating for this pair, the low slash 5, I will gonna rate it 5, and I'm gonna represent it in Kamen Rider Drive, which is engaging startup, which is full throttle. The mids is decent, I think, around 3. Highs, I'm completely gonna rate it to comfort, based in Kamen Rider build, which is best match, 5 out of 5. Design, I'm gonna base it again in Kamen Rider Drive, which is drive type cool, which is very comfortable in my ears. And technical list is around 3. So my final thoughts about the Kbear Larks. Honestly, for this price range, I mean for this price, it's pretty good, but it's not that tonal balance for me. It's pretty an alternative for Heart Mirror, which is for me, I think, subjective. And I guess that's it. Thank you for watching. See ya!